Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. Calendar has flipped. We're getting pretty close to Happy Valentine's Day out there. Let's spend some time and go on a road trip for the sport that we adore. Let's take a look at 10 beautiful college basketball things from the past week. So buckle up that seatbelt, keep those eyes wide open as we take a Screen the Screener style road trip around the sport we all adore. Stop one. Guess Ohio State might be the place to start. Now listen, we'll just say here on the podcast, last season, we had the Buckeyes as one of our Final Four selections during the preseason, so we've really never unloaded our baggage from the Buckeye bus, but a few observations. E.J. Liddell is just a fearless low-post anchor in the mold of Montrezl Harrell, and since we were talking fearlessness, Dwayne Washington is the definition of irrational confidence from the perimeter and taking the ball into the hole. And then if we focus on the supporting cast, we got C.J. Walker, the point guard, transfer from Florida State, who really knows how to run things at the collegiate level, Seth Towns via Harvard, and Justice Suing from the West Coast and Cal. Then we view the departures. DJ Carton, Luther Muhammad, starting quality guards in college hoops. And then you have one of the oddest unconventional equations of team, culture, program building this particular season. We have to include, and have on this podcast, include Chris Holtmann in the conversation of top 10-ish coaches in the country. Well, here we are again on the Screen the Screener podcast with the Buckeyes. Stop 2. So Houston proved it was human, just like Villanova and UVA and Tennessee and Michigan. And the Cougs drop a game to the Pirates from ECU. And I think the biggest takeaway here is let's keep a bit of the shine on one of the best players in the sport and definitely one of the best players in conference. 6'7" junior forward, Jaden Gardner. He is one of the most efficient players inside the AAC, leading the conference in PER last season at a plus 25 metric, and his traditional numbers are eye-catching as well this season. 17.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, while shooting well from the field and getting to the line a ton and knocking it down at a 75% clip from the stripe. Let's hope that the upset win garners some spotlight for Jalen Gardner's stellar college career thus far. Stop 3, time to examine the array of the Big East games from this past week that did not follow the script. Unless you're the co-host of the program, Mike Randall, who was definitely on that Georgetown-Creighton upset right from the start for the right reasons. And after viewing that St. John's Georgetown overtime game with my daughters earlier this year, I honestly thought both of these programs that helped raise us here on the East Coast were just kind of a mess. And they have been that way for a little bit. And then St. John's and podcast favorite Julian Champagnie. Oh, and he just happens to lead the Big East in box plus minus at 6.8, and he's leading the conference in scoring. They go and wreck Nova, and the Hoyas go ahead and hold off the Blue Jays. And now the Red Storm firmly sit on the bubble, trending the right direction, and the Big East is weary of Coach Ewing and those Hoyas again. I guess this just proves that the Big East is a grind, and no game is a gimme unless it's a Paul. Stop 4. Please take time to admire Waco, Texas. 35.35. 35.35. 35.35. No, we are not seeing double or a bit tipsy from a few too many beverages. That was the KenPom number that the Baylor Bears owned this past weekend after holding off a charging, desperate, talented, yet not yet whole Texas squad. The Bears can play fast. They can slog it. They defend. They shoot it a kind of ridiculous 43% from 3 as a team. They only turn it over 12 times a game. And they don't have one of the finest lead guards in the nation. They have 2 of them. Jared Butler and Davion Mitchell both average over 5 dimes a game, while both shoot it over 44% from 3, and both average 2 steals a game. Toss in that Matthew Mayer owns a touch, or maybe a ton, depending on your preference, of Adam Morrison-ish equity, and this Bears team is really something to admire. Stop 5, pit stop, time to hit the restroom, wash those hands, grab some snacks. And we hit up the MAC last road trip, and I think we'll just go to the MAC. It provided one of the best pit stops that you could hope for. Akron. taking on Kent State. Danny Pippen and LCJ, Lauren Christian Jackson, are podcast favorites, and box score bonanzas, both averaging over 20 points a game. Akron just kind of made this look silly. Getting up 20 early on the Golden Flash and keeping a safe distance in the second half, Brian Trimble could not miss from three, nailing 7 from beyond the arc. He's shooting over 40% from three this particular season, and he complemented LCJ perfectly on the perimeter. The Zips remain in shouting distance of conference leader Toledo and Marion Jackson. Stop 6. This week, to play fortune teller, we're going to take the current temperature in college hoops with a logical sample size. On Stop 6, let's talk some Big West. Podcast longtime favorite Gauchos are at it again out west, sitting at 8-2 in conference with one problem. The two losses are to UCI, who is 5-1 in conference due to some C19 playing pauses. This is tough to figure out on multiple fronts. One thing that is not difficult to figure out is Ja'Cory McLaughlin. This guy, oh man, 6'4" senior guard, is nearly a 50-40-90 shooter with 17 points per game and 5 assists per game. There is simply no more impactful student athlete inside the Big West, and he leads the Big West in PER, win shares, box plus minus, offensive rating, among other less metric-y categories. He's a flat-out stud. Good luck matching up with Ja'Cory, Hawaii. Stop 7. Let's hit the jug handle. The New Jersey staple in our weekly road trip, and just a lovely New Jersey brewery. Our home state holds some of the most unique college basketball talent in the sport. We'll start with defensive stud KC Ndefo. This stop in the jug handle, let's pay attention to Geo Baker and Rutgers. They seem to have found their feet again after a Big Ten slide. Baker started the year less than healthy and selflessly came off the bench for the greater good, which seemed to work early on for Rutgers. Baker has been through the entire Rutgers turnaround. He existed as the lone offensive weapon just as the Scarlet Knights entered the Big Ten. They've been there, done that, seen that senior is finally surrounded by equalish talent and finally kinda healthy. Coach Peichel put the ball back in Geo's trusted hands, and if Rutgers defends, like they usually do, take care of the ball and actually make some of those free throws, they can beat anyone, anytime, anywhere, maybe save the Zags and the Bears. Geo Shotmaker is back in business. Wait, what was that? Don't look now, but UAB is 15-2 and owns a singular conference loss, sitting at 8-1. Part of the reason of the Blazers' success is the development in the last couple of games of 7-foot junior Trey Jemison. He's figuring it out in a big way. Over his last 3 games, Jemison is posting 12 points a game, 10.7 boards a game, 3.3 blocks a game, a steal a game, and posting a ridiculous 70% field goal shooting percentage. Oh yeah, and he's shooting 80% from the stripe this season as well. Valentine's weekend is already going to give us Drake and Loyola Chicago twice inside the MVC. Well, we can admire Conference USA during that weekend as well. Jemison and the Blazers stack up against the Bulldogs from Louisiana Tech and Isaiah Crawford. Next weekend is filling up fast. Stop 9. So thankful of you. We mentioned him before on the podcast. Grant Sherfield, out of Reno. Screen the Screener co-host Mike Randall placed Nevada as his #1 preseason team a few seasons back, and we've always adored Cody Martin, Jordan Caroline, Cam Oliver, Jalen Harris. Sherfield is in the conversation with those Wolfpack greats. Friday night, needed a late shot in a tie game against one of the best teams in the nation, Boise State, and the 6'2 sophomore guard calmly found his spot on the floor and hits a game-winning floater with 5 sections left on the clock for a 74-72 Wolfpack win. And then he followed it up with a double-double. The next performance in a win against Boise State, the kid is playing like the player of the year inside the Mountain West Conference. #Battleborn. Final stop, finish line. I think we have to attach a little bit of attention to that Duke-UNC game that usually garners so many eyes and so much chatter. It's been one of the anchors in the college hoop season, owning a very foreign profile this particular season. The Duke-UNC ACC gem seemed to be just ordinary heading into the weekend, and a quick scan of the usual rivalries reveal an unusually relevant results. Xavier Cincy crosstown shootout allowed Xavier to get off to a 10-0 start. And let us ask the question, can they challenge in the Big East again? The Battle of the Boulevard with Belmont and Lipscomb. The Bruins won without stud point guard Grayson Murphy and are off to an 18-1 start. I guess they have some other solid supporting pieces. USC, I'm telling you what, after that last game this past weekend, USC might be just downright scary on the defensive end with Mobley blocking 4 shots and holding UCLA to 34% from the field. Louisville, Kentucky earlier this season had a WWF/WWE type hype from its head coaches. Thank you for that. And then this Duke-UNC game gave us a final possession game with 2 desperate teams coached by Hall of Famers. I guess our sport can still deliver the goods, even when the numbers, stats, metrics, records associated may not have the quality that is usually associated with good. Thank you, College Hoops, for remaining much better than good. Please find that finish line in about a month. We are all about to admire whatever happens in that bracket, no matter what names or numbers are attached. We just want to say thank you, College Hoops. Thanks for joining us on the Screen to Screener College Basketball Podcast for another road trip. You like what you're listening to, please don't forget to give the podcast a follow at the S Podcast, Efficiency of Keystrokes, of course, on Twitter. Please go ahead and give the producer, co-host, and creator of the Screen to Screener College Basketball Podcast, Mike Randall, a follow over at Randall Rant, especially now that college basketball season is ramping up. And we hope to catch everybody next week or even before you know it. Cheers, cilantro, grazie, Gasson, arigato.